Hello, my name's Kingsley Singleton and welcome to this digital photo video lesson where we're going to take a quick look at how to customize this month's free triptych templates. In the previous lesson, we looked at how to get your images into the templates, but here we're going to have a look at how to adjust the triptychs so they'll work with any set of images you want to use. We're going to look at how to change the shape of the holes that your images go into, turn the frame from white to black, and also resize the template so you can print it much larger. They're all easy to do, of course, and once you give these quick tips a try, you'll see just how flexible these templates can be. So let's just close down our finished images, and we'll bring up our starting template again. That was rebate triptych1.jpg. And the first thing we're going to look at is how to change the size and shape of the frames that your images are going to go into. So the first thing we need to do is just make a selection of the area that we want to change. In this case, we'll first look at the frame on the left-hand side here. So we'll come over to the rectangular marquee tool in the toolbox, give that a click. Make sure it's set to New Selection up here in the options bar, that the feathering is on 0 pixels and the style is set to normal. Then all we need to do is click and drag out a selection over the area we want to change. Then we're going to use the free transform tool to alter the shape. But before you do that, just make sure that you've got white set as your background color. If not, just click on the default foreground and background color icon down there, and that's what it'll set. Then we'll just press Ctrl and T on the keyboard, and we'll simply drag those central handles down and then up from the bottom. So we're making a square image now. But if we did want to kind of change the shape more drastically, just hold down the Control key and position it over one of the corner handles, and you can even kind of make the box go kind of slanted. Square's fine for us though, so I'm just going to hit Return on the keyboard to finalize that transformation, and then Control and D to get rid of those marching ants. We'll do the same for the others, just each time kind of transforming them into this square shape. That should be fine. And then our final one, once more just dragging that top center handle down and just making sure that those black lines line up at the bottom. Control and D to get rid of those marching ants. And now we've got 3 squares for our pictures instead of 3 rectangles. Now of course, if you want to save time and make sure that your transformations are all perfectly in line, all you need to do is just make a selection of all 3 boxes at the same time, follow the same route, and they'll all be crunched down together. Something around about that should be okay. Return once more and Control and D, and there are our boxes. The next thing we can look at is how to change the color of the frame itself. The background here, which is currently white, we can turn it to black if we like, or really any other color you so choose. Turning it black is the easiest option, and you'll find that lots of pictures look really good when they're kind of reversed out of a black background. And all we need to do to invert our picture here is simply press Ctrl and I on the keyboard. That'll turn the blacks white and the whites black. And if you're happy with that, you can get on with adding the images in exactly the same way as I showed you in the first of these video lessons. If you want a more colourful background though, that's easy to do as well. We'll just press Ctrl and Z to take us back to a white background, and then Ctrl and U on the keyboard to bring up the hue saturation palette. Now in here, straight away we want to click on the colorize box down there at the bottom, and then to give us a nice kind of subtle colour in the background, we'll drop the lightness down to about -20, and then we can use the hue slider just to get a sort of a subtle tone to offset your macro images. And this can be quite a nice effect if you've got certain strong colours in your shots that you want to complement. But we can make the effect of changing the colour of the background even more vivid just by dragging this lightness slider down even further, down to sort of -50 or so, and we get a much more colourful look to the background. Of course, we can also use the saturation slider just to boost those colours, but the colour that you use will really depend on the images that you're inserting into the frames. I'm quite happy going for that black background look though, so I'll hit Cancel to get rid of the hue saturation palette, and then Control and I on the keyboard again to invert those tones. The final thing we're going to do before we add those images again is change the size of the template so we can print it out much larger. It's a good idea to do this now before you add your photos to the template, because there's no point shrinking them down and then blowing them back up again. You'll only lose quality that way. So to change the size of our template, we're going to increase it to A3 in size so we can make a really nice big print for displaying on the wall. We'll just come up to Image and down to Image Size. Now we want a really nice high quality print, so we want to make sure that when we resize the template, the resolution stays at 300 pixels per inch. To do this, you'll need to make sure that Resample Image is ticked at the bottom of the palette there. And then from the list of interpolation methods, just make sure that bicubic is selected. Then all we need to do is change the width of the document to 420 millimeters, and the height will follow it there to around 297. We seem to have lost a few fractions of a millimeter along the way, but that won't hold us back, so just press OK to exit the palette. And now you can add your photos to the template in exactly the same way as we did in the first video lesson. Just using that magic wand tool, we simply zoom in a bit, click within the white area this time, hold down the Shift key to add those small points to our selection, up to Select, down to Modify and Expand. Expand by, I think we'll go for 2 pixels this time because we've increased the size of our template. That should be fine. We'll open up one of the images that we want to use. File, Open. We'll pick the one called clock2.jpg. Control A to select all those pixels, Control C to copy them into the memory. Close that one down, and then it's back up to Edit and down to Paste Into. Back out to a full view there, and once again Control and T just to resize and reposition the photo within the frame. So you see it works in exactly the same way as it does when positioning your shots using that regular document. So I'll just add those other images in and I'll join you in a moment. Okay, so here we are with our nicely positioned and presented macro images, just using a slightly customized version of the triptych templates that you'll find on this month's CD. I'm sure you'll agree it's quick and easy to do, but best of all, a great way of showing off your pictures. Okay, make sure you give it a go with your own pictures, and I'll see you next time.